Welcome to Edupedia World. In this video, we will discuss census method and sample method. Every individual who is using the statistical technique is required to collect information. There are two methods of survey to collect data. First, census method. Second, sample method. For discussing the above methods, it is necessary to have a clear understanding of the term population and sample. In statistics, the term population and universe means the inclusion of all the items in the field of statistical inquiry, and sample means selection of few items as representatives of all the items. A part of the whole population is called sample, and the process of selection is termed as sampling. Suppose there are 500 girls in government senior secondary school. If we want to know the average weight of those girls, we will weight each girl and will get the information about all the 500 girls. Then the average weight will be obtained by dividing the total weight of the girls by the number of girls. The population is the weight of the entire group of 500 girls. However, we can save the time and labor by taking only 50 girls out of 500 and obtain the average of this part of the total population. The average of 50 girls reasonably be representative of average weight of 500 girls. In this case, weight of 50 girls is a sample. When adequate secondary data is not available for the problem under study, a decision may be taken to collect primary data through original investigation. The original investigation may be obtained either by census method or by sample method. First, we will discuss census method. The objective of a census method or complete enumeration is to collect information for each and every unit of the population or universe. In this method, every element of population is included in the investigation. Thus, when we make a complete enumeration of all items in population, it is known as census method or method of complete enumeration. In the previous example, collecting weights of all the 500 girls in senior secondary school is census method of collection where no student is left over as each student is a unit. Census method is specifically suitable for statistical investigation when limited coverage is required, population contains widely diverse items, intensive examination is required to achieve high degree of accuracy and reliability. Following are the few examples of census. The population census is carried out once in every 10 years in India. Most recently, population census in India was carried out in 2011 by house-to-house inquiry to cover all households in India. Second example, demographic data obtained by census method on death rates and birth rates, literacy, workforce, life expectancy and composition of population, etc. are published by Registrar General of India. Third example, the data relating to estimation of the total area under principal crops in India are obtained by using village records maintained regularly by Patwari. Now we come to the merits of census method. First, information about every item in the population is obtained. Second, information collected is more accurate and highly reliable. Third, element of bias is practically eliminated because the investigator has to study each item in the population and has no choice in between the items. Fourth, information collected through the census method is quite exhaustive and meaningful because all the items of the population are studied. For example, population census in India gives exhaustive information relating to the number of people in different parts of the country, their age, sex, education, status, occupation, etc. Fifth, by using census method, one can study diverse characteristics of the universe. When items in a universe are of complex nature and it is necessary to study each item only, census method can suit each situation. And the last point, census method can be successfully used in investigations relating to unemployment, poverty, and corruption. Demerits of census method. Census method requires great deal of money and time. Next, in certain practical situations, especially where the population is complex and it is difficult to contact every item and where items during testing either get destroyed or consumed, the census method is not suitable. For example, if some fruits are to be tested, by tasting each fruit, then all the fruits will get consumed during tasting. If we want to check the tensile strength of a steel rod by stretching it till it breaks, then also the census method cannot be used. Third, it is a time consuming process. Fourth, it needs lots of manpower and proper training to the person deployed for collection of data. And the last limitation, if the population is infinite, this method is not applicable. These are the demerits of census method. Now we come to sample method. We may study a sample drawn from the large population, and if that sample is adequate representative of the population, we should be able to arrive at valid conclusion. The results obtained by a sample study can be applied to the whole universe or population. Thus, when we make sample enumeration of some units of population is called sample method of collecting of data. In the previous example, collecting the weights of 50 girls out of 500 girls in senior secondary school is sample method of collection. In this method, few students as sample considered for our study. In this method, group of items called sample is taken from the population and studied. Inference or conclusion about the population is drawn on the basis of the result obtained from the sample. Samples are considered to be the devices useful for learning about large masses by observing a few individuals. This method is much more widely used in practice. This method is particularly suitable when the size of the population is very large or infinite, very high degree of accuracy is not needed, sample drawns are not very small, different units of the population are broadly similar to each other. Following are the few examples of sampling. We look at a handful of grain to evaluate the quality of wheat, rice or pulses, etc. A drop of blood is tested for disease like malaria, typhoid, etc. A few items are tested to find out the lifespan of electric bulbs out of each lot. Thus, in our statistical terminology, population or universe does not mean the total number of people in an area. It means the total number of observations or items in particular inquiry. And sample means a small population of items selected from a universe for statistical studies. Objectives of sampling. In general, a sample study may be undertaken so as to fulfill the following objectives. First, the information gathered from a sample survey may be used to test hypotheses about the parent population from which the sample is taken. Sample surveys are also conducted to test the accuracy of the results obtained by a census. After the population census, such surveys are undertaken. Second, to get necessary information to fulfill some specific purpose, sample surveys are conducted. Social, economic, and business surveys come under this category. Third, such surveys are undertaken to make inferences about the nature of the parent population. The characteristic of parent population can be found from a sample study, which will save time, money, and energy. And the last objective, sample surveys are undertaken to inquire about the conditions of the universe continually. Quality control and surveys in medical sciences fulfill these objectives. Now we come to merits of sample method. There are certain principal merits of sampling as compared with complete enumeration. They are as follows. First, reduced cost. If data are secured from only a small fraction of the aggregates, that is population, expenditure may be expected to small fraction, that is population. Expenditure may be expected to be smaller then. If complete census is adopted, if financial resources at the disposal of the investigator are limited, a sample study will be economical, and on the basis of the results of such a study, characteristics of the universe can be known. Second, greater speed. For the above reason, the data can be collected and summarized more quickly with a sample than with complete count. This may be a vital consideration when the information is urgently required. Third, greater scope. In certain types of inquiry, highly trained personnel or specific equipments limited in availability are needed to obtain and analyze the data. A complete census may then be impracticable. In such cases, sampling methods are mostly used. Fourth, detailed inquiry and greater accuracy. In a sample survey, the number of units under study is kept limited. This makes it possible to study them in detail. In several types of social and economic surveys, detailed and continuous inquiry is necessary, and for this sample survey method is the best. Due to limited number of units in the sample, highly trained and efficient persons can be employed to achieve accurate results. Administrative convenience. The organization and administration of sample survey are easy. And the last point, it is the only method in many cases. In certain circumstances, due to characteristics of the universe, sample inquiry is the only method which can be used. If the universe is too large or infinite or spread over a large geographical area, it is difficult to collect information about each unit. In quality control also, only this method is used. Demerits of sample survey. Sample survey has the following demerits. First, illusory conclusions. If the items of the sample are not selected without any bias, the conclusions may not be correct. Due to defective nature of the universe or wrong method of selecting items, the sample become biased. Second, representative sample. The results of a sample investigation will be accurate and applicable to the whole universe. If the sample taken is representative of the universe, to make a representative sample is a difficult task. Third, specialized knowledge required. Sample investigation is a special technique and everybody cannot use it. It requires specialized knowledge. If an investigator does not have the required specialized knowledge, he may commit blunders. When there are wide diversities among different items of the universe, it becomes very difficult to adopt the sampling method of investigation. And the last point, impossibility to frame a sample. Sometimes the universe may be so small that it may be impossible to draw a representative sample from it. These are the demerits of sample survey. Methods of sampling. The following methods or techniques of sampling are generally used. First, random sampling, and second, non-random sampling. Let us discuss now the various sampling methods which are popularly used in practice. Random sampling is one where the individual units are selected at random. It is called as probability sampling. Random sampling does not mean unsystematic selection of unit. It means the chances of each item of the universe being included in the sample is equal. The term random sampling here is not used to describe the data in the sample, but it refers to the process used for selecting the sample. Following are the methods of random sampling. Simple or unrestricted random sampling. This method is also known as simple random sampling. In this method, the selection of item is not determined by the investigator, but the process used to select the terms of the sample decide the chances of selection. Each item of the universe has an equal chance of being included in the sample. It is free from discrimination and human judgment. Random sampling is the scientific procedure of obtaining a sample from the given population. It depends on the law of probability, which decides the inclusion of item in a sample. To ensure randomness, mechanical devices are used. There are two methods of obtaining the simple random sample. They are lottery method and table of random numbers. First, lottery method. A random sample can generally be selected by this simple and popular method. All the items of the universe are numbered, and these numbers are written on identical pieces of paper. They are mixed in a bowl, and then there starts the selection by draw one by one by shaking the ball before every draw. The numbers are picked out blindfolded. All slips must be identical in size, shape, and color to avoid the biased selection. A special kind of rotating drum is used for finding random numbers. It is called the electronic random numbers indicator equipment. The drum contains round wooden or metal pieces on which numbers 0 to 9 are written. The drum is rotated by a mechanical device, and each time one piece comes out, the process is repeated to get the full number of digits. For instance, if the number is in thousands, the drum is to be rotated 4 times. This method is used in drawing prices for lotteries, prize bonds, etc. Second method, table of random numbers. If the population size is very large, the above procedure will become quite unwieldy and time consuming. Furthermore, it may introduce biases if the disc, balls or slips are not thoroughly mixed. Therefore, in recent years, there has been a marked tendency to use tables of random digits for the purpose of drawing such samples. A table of random digit is simply a table of digits which have been generated by a random process. The following tables of random digits are available. Tippett's random sampling numbers. There are 10,400 numbers arranged 4 digits a time. MG Candle and Baginton Smith's random sampling number having 1 lakh digits. Rand Corporation's million random digits. Snedeker's thousands random numbers. Fisher's and Yates table having 15,000 digits. Tippett's table of random numbers is most popular, which can be used by taking out sample. Suppose we want to decide the sample of 15 students out of 2000 students in a college. We will first number all 2000 students from 1 to 2000. After numbering the students, now we will consult a page of Tippett's table. We can get sample by taking any 15 successive numbers either horizontally or vertically. Merits of simple random sampling. First, it is more scientific method of taking out samples from a universe. There are less chances of individual bias. Every item in the universe has equal chance of being selected. Second, it is more representative. When size of sample increases, it is more representative of the population as the law of inertia of large numbers and the law of statistical regularity begin to operate. Third, this method is economical as it saves time, money, and labor in investigating a population. Fourth, the theory of probability is applicable if the sample is random. Fifth, sampling error can be measured. Now we come to the demerits of this method. First, this requires complete list of population, but up-to-date lists are not available in many inquiries. Second, if the size of the sample is small, then it will not be a representative of a population. Third, when the distribution between items is very large, this method cannot be used. And the last point, the numbering of units and the preparation of the slips is quite time consuming and not economical, particularly if the population is large. Now we come to restricted random sampling. They are as follows: stratified sampling, systematic sampling, and cluster sampling. First, we will discuss stratified sampling. In this method, the universe is divided into strata or homogeneous groups, and an equal sample is drawn from each stratum or layer at random. This method is therefore useful when the population of the universe is not fully homogeneous. For example,
Suppose we want to know how much pocket money an average university student gets every month. Will be taken equal sample from various strata, namely BA students, MS students, and PhD students, etc. Stratified random sampling is widely used in market research and opinion polls. If it is fairly easy to classify people into occupational, economic, social, religious, and other strata. There are different types of stratified sampling. First, proportional stratified sampling is one in which the items are taken from each stratum in the proportion of the units of the stratum to the total population. Second, disproportionate stratified sampling is one in which units in equal number are taken from each stratum irrespective of its size. And third, stratified weighted sampling is one where units are taken in equal numbers from each stratum but weights are given to different strata on the basis of their size. Merits of stratified random sampling. First, the sample taken under this method is more representative of the universe as it has been taken from different groups of universe. Second, it ensures greater accuracy as each group is so formed that it consists of uniform or homogeneous items. Third, it is easy to administer as universe is subdivided. Fourth, greater geographical concentration reduces the time and expenses. Fifth, for non-homogeneous population it is more reliable. Sixth, when original population is not normal, this method is appropriate. Demerits of this method. Stratified sampling is not possible unless some information concerning the population and its strata is available. Second, if proper stratification is not done, the sample will have an effect of bias. If different strata of population overlap, such a sample will not be a representative one. Next, systematic sampling or quasi-random sampling. Systematic sampling is a simpler and a more convenient method. This is used when a complete list of the population is available. This is called a quasi-random method because a kind of randomness is achieved by preparing this list in some random order. For example, alphabetical order. The method consists of selecting every nth item from the list. N stands for any number. Suppose we have a universe of 10,000 items and we want a sample of 1000. Then we take n equals to 10. The method of selecting the first item from the list is to decide at random from the first sampling interval, that is between 1 and 10. Suppose we pick up the fifth item. Then the other items will be 15th, 25th, 35th and so on until we have got our full sample. In order to get reliable results, it should be made sure that the list of the universe is fully random and that there are no inherent periodicities in the list. Merits of this method. It is a systematic, very simple, convenient, and checking can also be done quickly. Second, in this method, time and work is reduced much. Third, the results are also found to be generally satisfactory. Demerits of this method. Systematic selection may or may not approach chance or random selection, as random will not be a determining factor in the selection of a sample. Second, it is feasible only if the units are systematically managed. Third, if the universe is arranged in wrong manner, the results will be misleading. Next, cluster or multi-stage sampling. In this method, sampling is carried out in a number of stages. This is done when we know that for getting reliable results, we have to divide and subdivide a universe according to its characteristic. Thus, if a survey is to be conducted in a country, it will first be divided into zones or states or regions, then into smaller units, cities, towns, and villages, and then into localities and households. At each stage, sampling is done by a suitable method, say simple random sampling. This method of sampling is very helpful in many large scale surveys where the preparation of the list of all units in the population is difficult, time consuming, and expensive. Next, we come to non random sampling. Non random sampling is done on the basis of convenience and judgment of the investigator and not on the basis of probability as against random sampling. Thus, non random sampling is not free, it is determined by certain consideration. The following are some important methods of non random sampling. They are judgment sampling, quota sampling, convenience sampling. First, we will discuss judgment sampling. This is also called purposive or deliberate sampling. In this method, individual items of sampling are selected by the investigator consciously using his judgment. Therefore, it requires that the investigator should have a good knowledge of the universe and some experience in the field of investigation. Obviously, the choice of sample will vary from one investigator to another. For example, from a universe of 10,000 ladies who use a particular brand of hair dye, the investigator will select a sample of say 1,000. His choice of this sample will be such that it is irrespective of the universe. For this, an exercise of judgment is required. In order for the judgment sampling to be reliable, it should be free from individual lies or prejudice. Since the choice of sample is not based on probability, it does not guarantee accuracy and it makes detecting of sampling errors difficult. However, this method is useful in solving a number of kinds of problems in universe and economics. The purposive or judgment sampling is suitable in the following conditions. First, the number of items in the universe is small, to which some items of important characteristics are likely to be left out. Second, when small size sample is to be drawn. Third, when some known characteristics of the universe are to be intensively studied. Fourth, it is also appropriate for pilot survey. Second type of sampling, quota sampling. It is a method of sampling that saves time and cost and is commonly used in surveys of political, religious, and social opinion. Interviewers are allotted definite quotas of the universe and they are required to interview a certain number from their quota. Quotas are decided on the basis of the proportion of persons in various categories. In other words, the investigator is given instructions about how many interviews should be taken, say, in a given locality, and what proportion should be from, say, upper, middle, and lower income groups, as by some other classification which is predetermined. For example, for a study of truancy from school in Delhi, truancy means running away. The investigator are allotted quotas of say 10 schools, each out of which 2 should be public schools. One public school, that is of girls, 3 boys senior secondary school, 2 girls senior secondary school, 2 co-educational school, and from each school he is asked to interview 50 students, taking 10 students each from classes 8, 9, 10th, 11th and 12th. The interviewer can select any 10 students according to his own judgment. It is a kind of judgment sampling and provides satisfactory results only when interviewers are carefully trained and personal prejudice is kept out of the process of selection. Now we come to the third method, that is convenience sampling. This method is different from the other two previous mentioned methods since the portion or chunk or a universe is selected purely on the basis of convenience. For example, for the study of truancy means running away from school, The investigator may select a school or schools in the neighborhood because it is convenient for him to go to the school. This method is used when the universe is not well defined, or the sample unit is not clear, or complete source list is not available. Thus, samples may be obtained from easily available lists such as telephone directories, automobile registrations, etc. Obviously, results obtained by this method are not truly representative of the universe and are unsatisfactory. Advantages of sampling. Having discussed the various methods of sampling, we will now enumerate the advantages of sampling method in general. First point, economy of time. Time is saved not only in the collection of data, but because of the smaller size, also in analyzing the data. Therefore, sampling is very useful in getting quick results. Second, economy of cost. Because of less effort involved, it is much more economical method than that of census. Since it is cheaper and possible to conduct more investigations within the same budget of an organization or a country. Third, reliability. Since it is a scientific method and trained investigators are employed for the collection of data, sampling is in some ways more reliable than census method. Fourth point, minimum errors. In this method, it is possible to check the extent of errors, while in census, a large number of errors may creep in it. It is almost impossible to detect them. The total error, therefore, is much lower in sampling method. Fifth point, follow-up. Because of the smaller size of the data and the employment of trained investigators in sampling, it is possible to cross-check the reliability of the data easily. Sixth point, information in depth. The economy of time and money allows a sampling method to collect more detailed information. For instance, if only 10 out of 100 persons are to be interviewed, more questions can be asked than if all the 100 are to be interviewed. Seventh point, indispensability. In certain circumstances, the sample method is the only possible or practicable means of investigation. For instance, in the case of quality control of cigarettes or boards manufactured at the rate of 1 lakh a day. And the last point, checking census results. The sample method is generally used to check the accuracy of data collected by census method. This is possible due to the scientific nature of sampling method. However, certain cautions are required in using the sampling method. Careful planning, proper training of investigators, expert analysis, and above all, application of the method to an appropriate field is necessary for the success of sampling method. Now we come to reliability of sample data. The main purpose of sampling is to collect maximum information with minimum expenditure of money, time, and labor, and yet achieve a high degree of accuracy and reliability. For ensuring reliability, certain principles must be followed. In sampling method, it is presumed that whatever conclusions are drawn from a sample are also true for the whole population. This presumption is based mainly on the following two laws. First, the law of statistical regularity and the law of inertia of large numbers. First, we will discuss the law of statistical regularity. The law of statistical regularity is derived from the mathematical theory of probability. It says that a comparatively small group of items chosen at random from a very large group will, on the average, represents the characteristics of the large group. Basically, it applied to random selection. Thus, in the process of sampling, each unit of the universe has an equal chance of being selected. Therefore, the selected items can be said to be representative of the universe. Although the law is not as accurate as a scientific law is, It does not ensure a reasonable degree of accuracy, since there is a certain regularity in natural phenomena. We assume a certain uniformity in nature. A random sampling is said to follow the law of statistical regularity because of this basic uniformity in a universe. Second law, law of inertia of large numbers. This law is also called the law of stability of mass data. It is based on the law of statistical regularity. Basically, it states that if the numbers involved are very large, the change in a sample is likely to be very small. In other words, the individual units of a universe vary continually, but the total universe changes slowly. That is, large aggregates are more stable than small ones. Because of the slow change in the nature of total universe, this law is called the law of inertia, means laziness of large numbers. For example, sugar production of factory will vary significantly from year to year, but the sugar production of a country as a whole will remain comparatively stable. Over a great change may take place in a male-female ratio of family may appreciably change over a short period, but the male-female ratio of a country as a whole will remain almost for the period. To take another example, if a coin is tossed 6 times, we may get heads 4 times and tails 2 times. But if a coin is tossed 5,000 times, there is a high probability of getting heads and tails 2,500 times each. This happens due to compensation in the operation of this law. That is, when one part of large group is changing in one direction, the other moves in the opposite direction. Thus, reliability of sampling depends mainly on randomness of selection of data and the large size of universe expressed by the above two laws.
Thank you for watching Edupedia World videos.